coming out to be a part of our program. In the absence of Pastor Carter, Minister Foster, members and friends, I stand before you today to present our speaker of the hour, my brother Joshua Griffin.
Amen.
Born in a little town called Hull, so you know he's going to do all of this. He's the last of 8 kids. He graduated from Hillcrest High School and later the University of West Alabama, where he received his degree in education.
Amen.
Joshua is a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha. He's also a Mason, a member of New Generation in Utah, where Pastor Joe E. Wells is his pastor. He sings in the Men of Praise, so yes, he can sing, and he also can burn in the kitchen. The boy can cook. Joshua has been teaching for 16 years. Amen. He started out at York West End, John Essen, Hope, and now at C.J. Donaldson Elementary in Fairfield. But most of all, he is known as my little big brother. Because, he did me and I am. And I love him truly. So give him a hand of applause, Joshua Griffin.
Equipment. Figure it out yourself, my lad. You've all the greats of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you will be wise. With this equipment they all began, so start at the top and say, I can. Look them over, the wise and great. They take their food from a common plate, and similar knives and forks they use. With similar laces they tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart, but used all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if only you will. You are well equipped for the fight you choose. You have legs and arms and a brain to use. And the man who has risen, great deeds to do, began his life with no more than you. You are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life, but he lets you decide what you want to be. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out yourself, my lad. You were born with all the great have had. With your equipment, they all began. Get hold of yourself and say, I can. To the angel of this house in his absence, Pastor Carter, and to any ministers, evangelists, prophets, teachers that are in the audience, to the officers of Mount Horeb, to my sister and youth director, Eunice Briggs, to the Mount Horeb Youth Department, to the Master of Ceremony, C.N. Jones, and to all the youth and guests from various churches that are assembled here this afternoon on this auspicious occasion, salutations. Now, some of you will probably wonder why I did not greet or say anything when I first came up, but I do have church etiquette. Now, if the high school students are here, how many of you know about the debate team? Anybody familiar with the debate team? I was on the debate team in high school when I was at Hillcrest. And one of the things that we did, we competed. We read certain pieces. And what I just did was part of a prologue that I read an introduction, or I read a piece before I went into my introduction. So that is what I did. And I remember that from high school. And it's been over 20 plus years. So, once again, I'm Joshua Griffin, and I bring you greetings from New Generation Church in Utah, Alabama, under the leadership of Pastor Joanne Wells, where the word is expressed and the word is explained. I am very honored and humbled to have been asked to speak here this afternoon at this appointed time that has been predestined by Heavenly Father. I hope that you will leave here with one thing that will help you in your daily walk with Christ. But before we go any further, let us bow our heads and give reverence unto God. This evening, our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you with bowed heads and humble hearts. Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. Lord, we thank you for all of these youth that have assembled here in your name. Lord, we just ask that you would just put your arms around them, just put a covering over them, that you will not let any harm or danger come to them. And Lord, as I attempt to give a word on this afternoon, Lord, I ask that you would just let me hide behind your veil and say what is needed to be said. All these blessings we ask in your darling son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Good evening once again. Now, I'm not going to profess to be a minister. Now, I do have two brothers that are ministers, but there is a word from the Lord. Now, I've been contemplating this past week alone on what I should speak to you about. Now, I had two messages. So the first message that I wanted to share with you, but after the events that transpired, at my job, I came up with another message that I believe that would be relevant for this day and time. So as I was sitting in the auditorium yesterday, we had a professional development day. I began to look at a number of verses that I was going to use with my second topic. And we're talking from a friend that said second topic was going to be who's in charge. But after listening to the superintendent speak and hearing what he had to say about what the legislature was trying to do, that they're trying to grade each individual school by giving a report card, and it's going to only be based on the ACT Aspire test that we only take once a year. He was very passionate in what he believed in, and he took a stance against in a meeting, and he told them how he felt, that it would not be fair for all the schools just to be graded on that one particular grade. So by me hearing him, that led me back to my first message. So it actually gave me confirmation on what I came here to do this evening. So I will not hold long, but I do want to get my point across to you this evening. Now I will try my best to stick to the text from the Bible. I will use stories and movies that you may be familiar with. I will use real life scenarios to convey my message. But for those of you that have your Bible, if you have them, if not, please turn with me to the book of 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter. And some of you may be familiar with the with 1 Samuel chapter 17. And I'm going to start with the third verse, but I'm going to skip around. And we know that that is a very lengthy chapter for chapter 17. The third verse states that, and the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side. And there was a valley between them. 4. And there went out a champion of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath, of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Skip down to verse 48. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, and David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and he took thence a stone and smote it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, and the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Finally, verse 50 says, so David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. So for a few minutes, if you don't mind, I will talk to you from my original message that was given to me. And it is titled, Stand Up to Your Goliath. Stand up to your Goliath. Now follow along with me, because I will use, once again, stories from the Bible, familiar stories and movies, and real life scenarios that will convey my message once again. Now in this particular book, we see that Goliath is said to be the champion of the Philistines that stood 6 cubits and a span. That means that he stood 9 feet, 9 inches tall. Now, a person of that stature would intimidate anyone, and in the 17th chapter of Samuel, Goliath used his height to see if any man would be willing to fight him in battle. And we have that today. When our kids are being bullied, being intimidated by other people because we have the bigger person, they want to prey on the smaller people. So we still have that today. Now he stated that if anyone defeated him, then the Philistines would serve Israel. But if he was defeated, then the Philistines would serve the Israelites. To fast forward, David, the youngest son of Jesse, was a sheep herder, and he is the one who decides that he will battle Goliath when the two armies meet up. Goliath, being the great champion that he is, probably looks at David and laughs at this young man that wishes to battle him. Once again, a man standing 9 feet, 9 inches tall, probably looking at someone who's standing anywhere from maybe 5'5", maybe to 6 feet tall. We really don't know. So he's looking down upon him, like, who are y'all sending to actually fight against me? This is really a joke. So are y'all serious about what y'all want to do? So, we all know the saying, never judge a book by its cover. And that is what Goliath did. Goliath looked at David and he judged Goliath because of his small stature. So David is very confident in who he is and to whom he belongs because in verse 46, David says to Goliath, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. So to make a long story short, David stood up to Goliath, stood up to him, squared up with him. He took that smooth stone from his bed, and he slang it, and he struck Goliath in the forehead, killing him. Stand up to your Goliath. Now, another familiar story from the Bible is the story of Moses and Pharaoh, and we all know about Moses and Pharaoh. The children of Israel were led in captivity, were held in captivity, and Moses was chosen by God to go to Pharaoh to take him to let his people go. Now we know that this was not an easy task for Moses because he felt that he was not the man that God wanted. But he was the right man at the right time for such a job. Now if you know about Moses, Moses was a man that had a stutter problem. So he felt that he wasn't the right person to actually go to Pharaoh to do what God had told him to do. But eventually Moses led the people out of Egypt because God guided Moses to complete the task. In the end, when arriving to the Red Sea, God told Moses to hold up his rod. And God parted the Red Sea and allowed the children of Israel to walk on the dry land across the Red Sea, across the bed of the Red Sea, while Pharaoh's army was approaching from behind. Now they were able to make it to the other side, and the story goes on and tells us that Pharaoh and his army were drowned in the Red Sea. Stand up to your Goliath. So let me bring your attention to a familiar movie that everyone in here has seen by Tyler Perry. And I know I'm not the only one that watches TV, and I love to watch TV. Now, I'm sure you all familiar with Mother's Family Reunion. So you probably know what scene I'm going to. So in that movie, Mother has a niece that is in a relationship. She's actually engaged to a man. But he beats her every chance that he gets. Every chance that he gets, if she does something wrong, he turns around and beats her. So she stays with him because of her mother. And she is afraid of her fiance. Why? Because he continuously beats her. So Mother tells her what she needs to do. And towards the end of the movie, she follows the advice. She follows the advice given and stands up to her Goliath. Now, Goliath could be anything that is hindering you. Anything. Now, here in the movie and in real life. So if we look at the girl that's engaged to this guy. And we look at real life, we have women that are being abused daily. That abuse can be physical, mental, verbal, or emotional. But abuse is abuse. Even you that are sitting here now often subject yourselves to abuse while you are in relationships. So I ask you, when will you stand up to your Goliath? Now, you don't have to be like the character that is in the movie and make your boyfriend or girlfriend breakfast. And his mother told her to do. I'll say it. And she told him, baby, look, make him some breakfast. So that's what she did. So she threw them hot grits on him. And hot grits was thick. Now, we're not talking about the grits where you just open the pack and just stir. No. Those are the ones that you have to cook. So those, that are going to be hot. And they will stick. So you don't have to be like her and beat him or her with a cast iron skillet, but just simply removing yourself and saying enough is enough will help you stand up to your Goliath. Amen. Now, stories from books that you may be familiar with or you may remember when you were a child, or some of you may be currently reading. Like I see we have some younger people in here. The Three Little Pigs. So once again, I'm a teacher, so I remember stories. So we have the Three Little Pigs. So in this story, the Three Little Pigs have each built their homes. But the big bad wolf is actually trying to get them, and she's trying to eat them. So the wolf manages to destroy the house, or the house is made of straw and sticks. But when he comes to the third house, he's unsuccessful. So the Three Little Pigs are all in the last house made of bricks. The big bad wolf tells the pigs to let me in, but they tell him, not by the hair, by chin. Then they have taken a stand against the big bad wolf. But he is so persistent, and he tries to enter the house through the chimney, and eventually is defeated after falling into that pot of boiling water. So maybe Mother read this story too, so you would never know. So the Three Little Pigs, in the end, stood up to their Goliath. Another familiar story. The story, The Little Engine That Could, is another good example. Now, this little engine, he wanted to be like all the big engines that pull these big loads. Once again, he's smaller than everybody else. Once again, you can't judge a book by its cover. So he is given the opportunity to do so one day, but he faced a steep hill that he had to climb with the load behind him. The little engine started going up the hill, but he did not let the hill, which was his Goliath, stop him from finishing his job. So he inched his way on up the hill, and he kept saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. So the little engine that could stood up to his Goliath, and eventually made it up the steep hill with the load and was able to finish his task. So how many of us can say that we are like the little engine that could? Nat Turner, and we all know that there's a movie out about him now. Nat Turner stood up to his Goliath by leading a rebellion of slaves and free blacks in Southampton County, Virginia. Marian Anderson, a famous contralto singer, stood up to her Goliath, the daughters of the American Revolution, when they did not let her perform at Constitution Hall. But she did an open-air concert on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Rosa Parks stood up to her Goliath by refusing to give up her seat on the bus one day after finishing a hard day of work, which led to the Montgomery bus boycott. So let us not forget the struggle that our forefathers endured to ensure us the right to be able to vote. That's right. They stood up to their Goliaths. Those Goliaths being tests that they were given to order to be able to register. Tell me how many beans are in this glass jar. Tested did not mean anything. So they came up with Goliath to try to stop our forefathers from registering. So that's what they did. So once again, your Goliath may be anything that is hindering you. Your Goliath may be a particular subject that you may be having difficulty with, but don't give up. Now, when I was in high school, I did not like geometry. I went in not liking geometry because I knew what I heard from other students. Oh, when you get in geometry, the teacher's hard. So I had a Goliath that I had to face. But eventually I passed geometry. So some of you may be going through that too. Now, you may be an athlete and you may be having trouble learning and executing the plays, but stand up to your Goliath.
All right.
With God, all things are possible. Now, in the poem that I shared with you at the beginning, it stated that God has equipped you with everything that you need. You have your 2 hands, your 2 arms, your 2 legs, your 2 eyes, and you have your brain if you use it. So be like David, Moses, Nat Turner, Marian Anderson, Rosa Parks, the 3 little pigs, and the little engine that could, and stand up to your Goliath and say, I can. Now, thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that I have inspired you in some way. And remember that with God, you, and you can stand up to your Goliath.